Adrian, welcome to the Primal Foundations podcast. It's so good to see you again.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, Adrian was a former contestant on the season three TV show The Biggest Loser, and I met Adrian this year at Hack Your Health and the Naperville meetup. I feel like I get to see you like all the time now, which is awesome.
When's your next one?
Next meetup?
I'll have to influence you on what your next meetup could be. I have lots of
Yeah,
ideas for you.
there's not that many. I found there was like some people were talking about there wasn't one in Chicago, but I haven't really heard about it. Naperville was like the closest one, and there's some in Wisconsin. I feel like they're not that popular out here. And are they really? Because I feel you've been to a lot of them.
Feels like that, but I think it's been like 4 or 5.
That's three more
But
than
it's
I
not
have.
enough. It
It's
just
not
fills your
enough.
soul.
I just found actually it's pretty funny. I just found somewhere there's somewhere in Chicago that does I followed the page of somebody, I gotta remember who this is. I gotta name drop them. They went to the Naperville meetup. Courtney, I think her name was. And I saw her tagged in it. I never met her because I didn't go to the barbecue. And there's some place in Chicago that does like meat preparation classes, like ribeyes and steaks and how to chop up like chickens and all that stuff. I was like, that's in my neighborhood? What? I didn't even know that. So that's what I'm gonna go do in Chicago next if I can get to one of their classes. But
That's
super
awesome.
cool.
I don't want to divert too much in the beginning, but do you know
No,
some schools now, especially in Texas, as part of high school, you can learn how to butcher?
that's so good. Like that's such a
I think that's
good
amazing. I wish I would have learned how to,
skill.
process animals.
Right. I mean, one, it's a great skill. Two, it's like if you're looking to save money,
Hmm.
you don't even have
And
to
eat
worry about it.
fresh.
hmm
Hmm.
Um, now I was honored to be on your podcast, which was awesome, and it's featured on YouTube. And you can check out Adrian's YouTube channel at Adrian K. Gledhill. And during the podcast, you seem to have a similar background story, as we found out. Can you tell us a little bit about your background story leading up to being on The Biggest Loser?
Yeah, my family, I don't know about you. I don't remember if this was part of your story, but my family didn't have a lot of money. I was raised by a single dad, and we moved in with my grandma who didn't work. And so were very low income. And I don't even know if they had as much support as they do these days, but even if they did, it's a lot of noodles and bread and orange juice and peanut butter. And I just never felt full. I could just eat those things all day long. And then because my dad was a single dad, he was working all the time. So I was with sitters a lot. And so food was my comfort. I was very lonely as a kid. And so I just used food as comfort. And when I went to school, I was bullied pretty heavily for this because I was a pretty big kid. My sister's eating the same food, but somehow she's getting full and she's not getting big. But I was probably the biggest kid in I mean, for sure in my family, but probably one of the bigger kids in school. I mean, there was like 3 of us total that had extra weight on us. And so as I grew up, I didn't want to be that way. And I wanted to prove to other people too that I wasn't going to let this get in my way. So I got really active in sports. And that was so helpful. Except I would say it was pretty disordered. And I think a lot of kids start becoming disordered. Eat as little as you can and move as much as you can. I mean, that's basically what they are propagating on The Biggest Loser. So it's kind of a culture, I think, in America to eat as little as possible, moderate your food. And I never could moderate. So similar to you, I would go periods of time where I would eat so healthy. I would be eating lots of vegetables. I don't even remember if I knew to eat meat as a kid that much. I don't think I hardly ate any meat in high school. But then I would go on binges because I'd be so hungry. I was the captain of my soccer team, so I'm running and that's pretty intensive running. I'm in golf and cross country skiing, and cross country skiing is a very intensive sport, burns a lot of energy. So these things are making me hungry and I'm restricting, so it would lead to binging. And I always wondered, like, why is this happening? Why can't I just have one glass of orange juice? I never could. And I would have a half a loaf of bread at a meal, and they would just call me Adrian Bun Cortismacky, and that's my maiden name, because nobody nobody would say that. They would say it's probably, they would look at me and go, well, that's why she's pudgy because she eats a half a loaf of bread. But they also wouldn't put together how addictive that bread is, I guess. So as I become an adult and I go to college, there's no more movement. I didn't play any college sports. I was too intimidated, which I really could have. I went to a D3 school. I went to St. Olaf College my first year, and I really probably could have played sports, but I was intimidated. And so I wasn't moving. I was doing a lot of studying. You have the cafeterias, and I somehow may have gotten my hands on some alcohol.
You
And
don't say.
somehow, I have no idea how, but I did. And so I gained 60 pounds my first year of college. And I went from being a pretty fit gal, like well, in high school, I was still considered hefty. I was like 165. Today, that's not considered hefty at all, which is very concerning. And we can totally go into that. But so in college, I get into like the 220s. And I go home my first summer, and my stepmom and we go on the Atkins diet, and I lose, I don't know, I think I lost like 30 pounds or something. It was pretty successful. But in a summer, that's pretty good. That's amazing, actually, in retrospect. But then I go back to school and I transfer to a party school because St. Olaf was way too much studying. So I transferred to the University of North Dakota and I gain all the way back. And at this point, I'm feeling very hopeless. And I remember studying abroad. I studied abroad in the Czech Republic and I didn't have any clothes that fit me. And in Europe, I couldn't find any clothes that fit me. And in Europe, I was the biggest person in every single room. Everywhere we went, I was the biggest person. And that weighs on a person's heart. It weighs on your self-esteem. It weighs on more than just your bones. So when I got back, I really just I was lonely too. I didn't have any self-esteem that I would be able to ever find someone, and I really longed for having a partner. I really, really longed for that. I longed for that companionship, that relationship, that future family. I really longed for it, but I didn't believe in my heart that I was ever worthy of it. I honestly thought I will be one of the people that never gets married because who would ever love me? I know that's super sad, but that's honestly what I thought. So I hear about this TV show, The Biggest Loser. And my stepmom says we should apply. But really, she's so shy. She would never. But I had a dream that I was going to be on it. And it was very vivid. Have you ever had one of those dreams that are just so vivid? You're like, this is real. This
I've
has to
had
be
a
real.
few times where it's like I've thought like about either being in my certain workplace or being like at a certain event happening and like oh my God, it came into fruition. That's so crazy. It actually did
Yes.
happen.
This
But
is one of those dreams. And I'm like, well, that's nuts because I'm a pudgy girl in North Dakota. Nobody's gonna pick me. So I go to an open casting call and I don't hear anything. And I know I didn't get picked from that because I've talked to other contestants on how they got pulled aside and there was multiple rounds. And so some people did get picked up there, but I didn't. And back in the day, we didn't have the smartphones. We didn't have the camera phones. There was no InShot or whatever the people are using to edit. Um, I actually filmed with a VHS camera on my shoulder, well, somebody's shoulder, and we didn't have a way to edit it, so we played it on the TV, and then we had to play it in order and re-film it. So it was double filmed on VHS, so horrible quality, and then we had to physically mail it in with a paper application. And I don't remember how much, it was a long time. It felt like a long time. I get this email from judyjohnson@gmail.com that says, you've been selected to move on to the next phase of The Biggest Loser. And I'm like, is this real?
did you
It
have to
was
like did
real.
you have to like travel for this next phase?
The next phase, I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say it was going to a hospital and getting a psych evaluation. And I'm not sure if I remember
Oh.
that right or not, but I'm pretty sure I did. And that's funny because I honestly think it doesn't disqualify you. It might actually magnify you. Like the more nuts you are, the better the TV. They have to have a couple narcissists on there to make good TV.
Oh yeah, it's what's reality TV without drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it disqualifies you or if it just gives them more information, and then I want to say we may have had to have we may have had to do like a weigh-in with a doctor. I don't 100% remember. And then we had to fill out questionnaires, I think, too. And then the final thing before getting flown was a contract this thick. And you had to initial every single page. So I was
Oh,
such a nervous wreck that my stepmom drove across the state because my college was like 4.5 hours from home. And she read every page to me because she's amazing.
wow.
And she read every page, and then I initialed it every page, and we mailed it in at the very last day that we could, and we overnighted it. And then the next phase was to fly there. And we
Wow.
get there, we're sequestered in a hotel for a couple weeks. During that time, they do extensive testing. I wish I could have those results. I am reaching out to Dr. Ising. I got to get a hold of him. Uh, but we did the bod pod, which is, do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Like an egg.
The like DEXA scan type um for body fat and bone density and all that.
There was a DEXA scan too, but there was a bod
Mm-hmm.
pod, and it was like a getting in an alien ship. And so they anyway, they had really close numbers on our body composition, and then we had to do the stress test with the stickies and the running on the treadmill, um and then we started filming. And I don't know if you want me to go much into that because I've talked about that on some other shows, but I'm happy to always talk about it because I want to debunk the fact that it is very much a set. It's very much TV, and that people were on their own a lot. So people were doing very unhealthy things to win. And I don't blame them. I think that that's the environment and the situation. So if I could ever redo the show again, I'd do it so different. But
It's a high stakes, you're in a high stakes situation and you're doing what you can to stay on like because people get cut, and we're gonna probably talk about that too. But if you don't make the weight or lose the weight or whatever, you're gonna get cut. Now going there, like we see the episodes, right? So when we watch them, it's like 1 week at a time, and people are like doing workouts, and the trainers are always on them, and then they weigh in. Is that timeline like pretty accurate? Like it's a week to week, or is a week longer?
it's so inaccurate. I've heard later on in the seasons that they tried to stick closer to the week, and you can tell when you look in Wikipedia at the seasons that had lower weight loss each week, that's closer to reality. I don't know if that was a legal thing or what, but I mean, I was on for 4 episodes, I think, and I was gone, I think, at least 2 months. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I couldn't tell you exactly, and I don't want to be sued. But in my heart, I feel like there was 1 week that was 3 weeks long, and I could be
That's
incorrect on that
just
exact
one
timing.
one episode, and you guys were doing. They're filming for 3 weeks, getting all the shots, getting everything, filming all the workouts.
That's what's interesting is there isn't that much filming. It's expensive to have camera crews there, which is why it takes longer than a week to film because you only get the camera crews when they're available. And then you want to film at night, most things, just because you have to turn the fans and the air conditioning off, not to mess with the mics. So you want the night. So a lot of stuff was filmed at night and they have to be available. And then on top of that, your sets have to be available. Like most of the competitions weren't actually at the ranch that I was at. None of the competitions were at the ranch. They were all somewhere else. The only thing that was filmed at the ranch pretty much was the weigh-in and the vote off. And everything
Mhm.
else was filmed somewhere else. So you had to have all that available and align all that. Plus I think that the filming crews are all part of a union probably. And, so that's why it takes longer. I don't think that they intentionally were like, we're gonna make this look so good. I think it all had to do with production. So people would be there every day and they would have the cameras in every single corner. And as you move, you could hear them going, "Arr, arr," and the only safe place was the bathroom. So I spent a lot of time in the bathroom,
Oh,
which brings up the fact I was spending a lot of time in the bathroom, but there was no going. And I thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm so constipated." And I would try to contact the doctor and they would never get back to me. And they never had an answer for me why I wasn't going to the bathroom. Now I would tell that Adrian today, you need more animal fat, maybe rendered, like butter. And I would tell that Adrian, you need more magnesium because I was also having calf cramps all night long and I couldn't sleep either. So that's another thing. There is a doctor behind the scenes, and he would love to be super active, but on my season, he wasn't allowed to be. I don't know if it was like a legal thing or what. He wasn't allowed to. He had to let the trainers do most of the work. And so another secret behind the show is the trainers are beautiful people are who used to be celebrity trainers. Like they help people skim off 5 to 10 pounds, look their best, maybe like Desperate Housewives situation. Not a 300-pound person. They're not a doctor, they're not a nutritionist, they're not a psychologist. They're mostly there for the thing that they did prior to this was mostly workout. And as me and you now know, workout is like 5 to 10% of the equation here to weight loss. Like 90 to 95% is what you put in your mouth.
And
So
I remember I watched an episode. I'm just thinking back of when I was watching, and they're like yelling at the people, and they're like telling them to pull this tire on a rope, and the person's like the form is going. They look terrible. They look like they're in pain, and they're just getting yelled at. I'm like, Jesus, like this is so hot. Like you can't do that to somebody like you're saying 300 pounds. Like if you're 300 pounds, you shouldn't be like trying to run up hills right away. Like that's let's take some time, like walking movement, not like let's sprint up this hill and you're 300 pounds and you haven't done anything for 6 years. That's just it's
let's talk
wild to
about that.
let's talk about it.
Would you agree that if you have a big body, you need to give yourself some compassion? You need to be gentle with yourself. You need to start with movement that obviously some strength training is great, but really some walking is great. You don't want to give yourself a heart attack. Like you're metabolically not healthy to be handling that. And so when people are throwing up and saying, I hurt and blah, blah, they should have been taken seriously instead of being like, this is why you're fat. You're so weak because this is why, because you're so weak. And the truth is like, when I got so my season, we had at home contestants and we had on show contestants. And because I won the at home, I got to come on. So I am both. And I came back and I was given a plan by Dr. Huizenga and it worked wonderfully. And I had no injury. Every single person on the show was injured, every one of them.
Yeah,
So these
it's
people are
it's
getting injured from this.
yeah, it's crazy. Like I wouldn't if I have clients, right? And I wouldn't like program things if they have no overhead stability, right? They have no mobility in their shoulders. I'm not telling them to press a log press over their head. Like it doesn't make any sense, and I'm also curious about the calorie restriction because this is where it gets real crazy is there, multiple workouts in a day and they're restricting the calories. I think I've even heard that the women were at like 900 calories a day and the men were at like 1200 calories a day.
And Jillian Michaels just talked about she's done several interviews, if you just search her interviews, saying that she claims that nobody lost muscle. To me, that just can't be true. Well, first of all, I saw the people at the finale. They were looking weak. Um, I personally fell apart prior to the finale, so I was looking inflamed.
Mm,
But most of the other people were looking pretty weak. They had lost every single thing they could, which is one of the problems with the show is, it should have been who can lose the most fat.
yeah.
It shouldn't be who can lose the most weight because now you have people losing bone and muscle. They have to, or else they won't win.
And I think I heard a story that you were saying about how they would be like doing colonics and like spinning cups and running in trash bags like they're making weight for like a UFC fight.
One of my favorite guys, Matt, he was in the season before me, and he's a wrestling coach and a lifelong wrestler. And so he kind of brought in, I think, he won using wrestling
I
tactics.
remember that. I remember we won. Yeah.
And so it was on after that, everybody was like, well, I know how to win, and that's to do that. Now, if I could change it, I just want to add, one more thing about the workouts. This whole last chance workout thing. The only thing a hard workout like that is doing, like where you're throwing up and sweating to death, is causing inflammation. Like you're not losing weight from one intense workout. If anything, you're getting inflammation when you're stressing your body that hard. I think it's more what are you eating that would affect it more.
Well,
Another
when
thing,
you
I kind of wish I would have known a little bit more about fasting back then too, but go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna say you're right because it's so why like I fight this. This is why one of the reasons I have this podcast is I'm fighting this narrative that when you work out, in order to feel that it needs to be effective, you need to be on the floor and panting and in this dire need of like oh I did it and I did like whatever and I'm on the floor, I'm so tired, therefore I gotta work out. And like what does that has nothing to do with really losing weight. Like you're just like doing something really, really hard for a short amount of time. But the more that you do that, the more likelihood that you're going to get injured. Your metabolic, especially if you're having low calories, whatever the nutrients may be, if you're doing 900 calories, 1200 calories, and you are just crushing your body every day, your metabolic rate is going to tank. And
Mhm.
there, I was just talking with our friend Casey Ruff, and he had people on a metabolic cart, and he was saying that people that um, were, and I even have this study up. I'll bring up the study too. But the people that were on the show before, he actually got to analyze somebody that
Can
was,
one.
that was on the show, and their metabolic rate was like in the toilet years after the fact, from the show. But
Mhm.
there's people that were not restricting their calories that had double the metabolic rate. And it's like, wait a minute, how does that make sense? They're eating less and they're working out
Wow.
more, and they're 1,000 calories less than somebody else in metabolic rate. Like that doesn't make any sense. But you're right, it is the nutrition and this whole narrative of working out just to crush your body. No, like you need to build up a capacity to be physically able to do things and get stronger, and having more muscle is going to help. But if you focus on that, you're just going to get injured. You're gonna wreck your hormones too. And then I have this was posted in 2016 by the Journal of Obesity. This is crazy. Researchers filed 14 contestants during and after one season of The Biggest Loser. Contestants experienced drastic weight loss. By the final weigh-in, contestants' leptin levels plummeted so that they had very little of the hormone, and made them consistently hungry. They also showed a slow metabolism over the following 6 years, which they tracked them after. They regained much of the weight, if not more weight, that they've lost, and their leptin and metabolism levels did not rebound. And in fact, the more weight a contestant lost on the show, the worse their metabolic rate was years later. Like that is what are we doing? And you're saying that you gained weight. So how far did you make it into the? Let's go there first. So you made it how far? And then when you left, what did that look like?
So let's start from the beginning. 36 people get sent home. That was me. And they said whoever lost the most weight at home got to come back. So Dr. Izanga told me 1,274 calories, break it into 3 meals, 2 snacks, 2 workouts a day, an hour and a half in the morning and an hour at night. Lots of cardio, but ensure I'm lifting pretty much every day or every other day. Make sure that there's lifting in there, he said. And I did that. And then he said, walk in between. So I worked at my dad owns a rental store where they rent like skid steers, backhoes, blah, blah. So working there is manual labor. We're taking sanders out to people's cars. We're spraying down equipment. It's a manual labor. So I work out in the morning. I do manual labor all day, work out at night. I lost more weight than everybody at home and everybody on the show. And the funny part was I thought I was doing terrible because I was comparing myself to the previous seasons, not knowing that a week wasn't a week. So here I'm like, oh man, I only lost 50 pounds in a month or something. I
Yeah.
don't remember how long it was. It was so, yeah, I was like, oh man. And I get there and I had beat everyone. In retrospect, I just want to put a little caveat in there that I was the youngest. I was 22. So now that I'm 40, I'm like, metabolism. That was my metabolism. It was my work too, but it was my metabolism also. So I lost a lot really fast. I haven't looked to see if at that point I had been, well, I can't tell because I don't know how the filming was with the previous seasons. or the past seasons, if I lost the most, the fastest ever. I don't know, but it was a lot, right? So if I beat 49 people, that's a lot really fast. So I go on to the show and I last a while and I continue to lose weight, even though I'm running out of weight to lose kind of. And there was one there was one vote off after me. So I was there for a while. And I got to do the makeover and all the things. I really stirred the show up because I watched it and I'm like, man, I was arrogant. I don't like that. I was arrogant but insecure. Just saying. I'd be a lot different today. So anyway, I forgot why I'm telling you this, but I leave the show and I immediately start gaining weight. And I think I always thought it was because I was so sad that I thought I failed. Now I'm seeing give myself a little compassion. I was starving. I was doing a lot of running. Everybody else was doing a lot of walking. I was running every day. Running, 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 running. So I was very, very hungry and I gained 100 pounds within a year. Long story short,
Wow.
I lost 66 pounds and I gained 100. And then through pregnancy and stuff, I ended up 170 pounds higher than I ended up 170 pounds than my Biggest Loser lowest. So,
Wow.
and in all this time, I hid. I had shame. I thought, I am such a failure. I'm never going to talk to anybody again. I'm never going on social media again. I wouldn't even go to my hometown because my hometown celebrated me. There were people that screamed. They were like, there's Adrian. And I was like, I refused. I didn't go to any of my reunions. I just hid for 10 years. So I never thought in a million years I'd be sitting here talking to you, Tony.
I mean, and this thing is like, you also like, you can't beat yourself up about it because you among the others, a lot of them, if not all of them, gain the weight back. And
Mm-hmm.
they're doing something that's unsustainable, unrepeatable. You can't do it over and over and over again. Mix that with prior, we just talked about how you were addicted to food. So
Mm-hmm.
mix all that together. That's just a recipe for disaster. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who you are. If you had the coolest celebrity coach in the world, it doesn't matter. You like you said, you as soon as you got off, you were starving. You wanted
Mm-hmm.
food, you wanted to do that. So now you're up, you've gained weight, 170 pound swing here. Is this the turning point now? Where
Yeah.
you want to start getting healthy and like how do you go from there? You make a decision, I'm gonna get healthy. What do you do?
I'm gonna be honest, the first thing I did was quit drinking.
Hmm.
And alcohol was in there. It wasn't like I was drinking during the day. I never missed work because I was drinking, but I'm not a moderator and it wasn't cute. And I was attempting to run and restrict like I always had, but that would always get in my way. It messed up my blood sugar, it messed up my eating, it messed up my plans. I would munch a lot while I'm doing it. It wasn't good for my psyche. It caused incredible anxiety hangovers. So that's the first thing I did was quit alcohol, and then I started running and restricting again, Biggest Loser style. I portioned all my foods out. It was all veggies and meat and low fat dressings and almond milk. All the things. And I lost 100 pounds. I got down to 230 all by myself running and restricting. But then it started going back up again. And I'm like, and I'm still doing the things, but they're not working anymore. But I'm blaming myself too. Well, I guess I just have to try harder. And I've seen this with other people too. So you're eating 1,200 calories, that doesn't work. So you start eating 1,100 calories, that doesn't work. So next thing you know, you're eating 800 calories until it doesn't work anymore. And you're starving and you're hangry and you're tired and you're miserable and your hair is falling out. And yeah, it's just awful. So that's when I asked Biggest Losers, like, how are you guys keeping this off? Because I'd seen people, like most people, I'll never know if they gained their weight back because they went off of social media. There is no finding them. I totally get it. That's me too. Um, but I had seen some people start appearing again and then they had lost their weight again. I asked them, what'd you do? And they said bariatric surgery. This
Mm.
was 10 years ago. And so I went and looked that up and it said that people that this was the best number one way to help obese people get it off and keep it off for good. And I considered myself an obese person. I'd gotten up to 330 pounds. I'd spent most of my life in the 230s to 260s. And so I had gastric bypass.
How was it
In
like
retrospect,
after? Yeah. Oh, what
can
are you
I
thinking?
say I think it's barbaric? Like now in retrospect, I 100% think it's barbaric. It reminds me of like the Hunger Games, the people in the Capitol, they don't want to change their eating, which I did. I did change my eating and I was working out, but the right information wasn't being given. So I did that and I did lose some more weight. Well, I did it because I'm a perfectionist, guys. I continued to track my food, portion my food, eat the right things, and exercise at least 5 days a week. I was probably running 15 to 25 miles a week. I mean, I'm really, really working this until I get sick. I start having hypoglycemia where your blood sugar just drops. And I'm not eating sugar. I never ate sugar. They told me that that would make me incredibly sick. I was afraid of being sick. So I wasn't eating that and I was getting hypoglycemia. I start getting anemia as well. My energy is gone. I feel like a garbage dumpster can. And so my weight starts going back up again. So the surgery was not the ticket. And in fact, it actually just made me sick. But here's why ultimately, here's why the surgery isn't the ticket. Because the mechanism of restriction is only good for so long. A, B, we're eating the wrong things. And C, the malabsorption, the only thing long term that's malabsorbed are nutrients, not the energy. You still absorb it all. I mean, I can gain weight so easier than other people, I would swear. But it's so the reason it doesn't work though long term is because ultimately we just need to eat more meat and X and look at our relationship with food. Like ultimately, I was sitting there munching on lettuce. Like there was always like, what is my free food? What is the thing that I can sit and just binge? What is the thing I can just sit and numb out on? And so it didn't make me fix my eating behaviors ultimately. Also, I am totally against the whole eat in moderation thing. This idea that if I could just eat a half a cup of ice cream, then I wouldn't be big. Nobody's eating a half a cup of ice cream.
I was just talking with Casey about this and I was like, yeah, it's the pint of ice cream analogy. And he's like, what's that? And I always say this. I go, because again, me and you are very similar. Like if I open up a pint of ice cream, just like one of those, like it could be the quote unquote healthy kind, a halo top, whatever.
Yeah.
If I open it, is gone. Like there's not even another version of that. I will eat the whole thing, but there are people that can open it up, have two bites, put the lid on, and say that's enough for me, and they can put it away in the freezer. And I'm in awe of those people. That's amazing. Great for
All
you.
four of them.
All yeah, all four people in the world that could do that.
Yeah.
But I'm like you. I will continuously chase that first bite. And it happens to me with everything, even fruit. I have to be very careful. I will buy fruit, and I think if people want to add fruit into their diet, all for it, man. Like you do you. You want to do the animal based version, great. However, for those of us out there like me and Adrian, that is such a trigger where I will, if I buy fruit for the house for the week, I will literally eat the entire thing in a day, in a sitting. Very easy. I tried the Paul Saladino thing, having the raw honey with the fruit and the meat, and I can literally just have steak and then be full. Or if I add fruit and honey, I will eat that. I will eat an entire bowl of that without even blinking my eyes. So that is we people like me and you, we got to be abstainers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when I quit drinking and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I'm free from the prison. They say that addiction is the only prison where the lock is on the inside.
That's a great one.
It's not
That's
mine. I don't remember who told me that. Someone else told me that recently, but I love it.
yeah.
It was Serena.
Okay.
Serena told
Car
me prison is the only, yeah, carnivore revolution.
mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, I'm so free from alcohol. Praise the Lord. Cause that I just wanted to drink all the time. I just loved it so much. It helped me relax. Anyway, so I thought I wish I could have this with food. And the closest that I've got is lion and really sea lion. Sea lion. Really, I recently tried some yogurt for the first time and the whole thing was gone.
Eh,
And it was just whole milk yogurt. It wasn't sweetened or anything, but it had enough sugar in it that I just kept craving. Or maybe it was the casein in it. I just kept craving, and the whole yogurt thing was gone. So I can't even have yogurt. But
so now how do you find like you're restricting some calories, you're watching what you're eating, seemed like kind of a low fat diet, just the regular, chicken was like chicken breast and some vegetables, basically.
back in Biggest Loser days, or
No, right after when you started losing weight.
yeah, it was chicken, 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 like no other meat.
And
Maybe some
this
fish and chicken. It was so white. And then I was eating a lot of lettuce. And then instead of dressing, I was using salsa.
oh,
And so it was just so low fat. It's so no wonder I was so miserable and my
yeah.
hormones were so low.
And what made
I
you
think
shift to, or how did you even find the carnivore diet?
that's basically we were just is basically what I was until carnivore. Because if I added almost anything, I would get hypoglycemia. So I got
Mm.
hypoglycemia from stress. Like I throw a birthday party, my blood sugar drops. I go to the Mall of America, my blood sugar drops. So stress. And then if I ate anything with carb at all, including dairy, I guess I was getting it. I don't get that anymore. I've had some dairy since then. I haven't had blood sugar drop. But so I'm having this hypoglycemia. So I'm just eating like low carb veg, eggs. I want to say I was cooking in olive oil, which now I'm like, I can't believe that I didn't know you shouldn't be heating up plant oils, period. I don't think we should be, right? Is that correct?
There's a couple different camps of that. Like you should be using like really not even butter, more of tallow to cook.
Mm-hmm.
Higher burning point than some of the olive oils. And there's people that are gonna argue that's like, hey, like we don't really know the extent of what plant oils are, even if they are like olive oil, like a vegetable oil and like an avocado oil and an olive oil. Um, a lot of people react very differently to all of those. I do use olive oil every now and again, and I'll add it in addition to some beef sometimes. Throw a little bit on it, like if I'm gonna put it on the grill so it doesn't stick. But I'm pretty careful about any oils that I use. If I cook a steak in the pan, I use a tallow like that because it's just a
Mm-hmm.
higher burning point. It's gonna taste better. I don't feel like I have any reaction to it, but very rarely, I very rarely now use olive oil. Just every once in a while, depending on the dish. But you're adding more. So you're cooking with olive oil or vegetable oils.
Yes, and when I look back, I was eating more plants than I was meat, big time. Because eggs and hamburger and even chicken, they scraped the sides of my surgically altered stomach and made me physically ill every time I ate. And it was like such a lack of stomach acid that it would get clogged. 10 years later, it was still getting clogged. And so I steered away from meat. I knew I needed to eat it so I would have some, but it was mostly plants. It was, because they just like break down and you can just swallow them and get them through your stomach really easy. So I'm eating a lot of plants. And then I just got sick. I got so sick. It started before my surgery. It probably started after The Biggest Loser, honestly. The fatigue, the chronic fatigue, which just perpetually got worse with every pregnancy because it's such a nutrient dense, taxing thing to do is to be pregnant. And by the end, my final straw, they say there's like, in some of these autoimmunes, there's trigger events. I have a head injury. I had a traumatic divorce. I had a traumatic marriage. What else? We had the surgery. Biggest Loser. I know I'm missing some things. But the final event, I got the bad virus. And I got the bad one when it was really bad. Like shortly after I got the bad one, it lightened up and it seems a little bit more like a cold. But the version I got, I had pneumonia on all four sides of my lungs and I was pregnant.
Mm.
So it was pretty scary. And they They had told me that they were going to put me on a vent and C-section my baby out. It was really, really bad.
Wow.
Um, I left against medical advice because I knew someone who said people went on vents and they never came back. So I left and I prayed that I'd find someone else, and I did. And she gave me some different medicines and I was feeling better within a week. So so praise the
Wow.
Lord. I'm a very fortunate woman for this angel that I was sent who saved me and my baby. So after that, that was my final event and I was never the same. And I was sick every time I ate. Every time I ate, I was keeled over in bed. I had no energy to go up and down the stairs. I was my head was not okay. Like I was having terror. My arms and legs were going numb. Sometimes my neck would go numb. It was so bad. I wasn't sleeping and I would wake up and I literally couldn't walk. I would like stumble down the hallway. It was so scary. And that's when, I mean, I was trying to tell people, you guys, I'm not okay. And they looked at me and they're like, you look fine. I took pictures. I didn't look fine, but just they were used to me looking sickly. And I just kept telling my family, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I can't explain it, but I'm not okay. And my dad said, why don't, and then that same doctor that saved my life, she ran some tests and said, you have Hashimoto's, your adrenals are a level three adrenal fatigue, which is like the highest adrenal fatigue. I had lichen sclerosis. I don't know if you say it. It's a skin condition where your body starts attacking your own skin and you get itchy. um, I had it just autoimmune everywhere, chronic fatigue, and she said, "You have to do something. You have to change. You're not doing okay. You're not okay." And I told my husband, "See, look, I told you I'm not feeling so good." And but nobody had any answers. And that's when my dad, my single dad who married my stepmom, that's when he said, "You should go carnivore." And he had lost 60 something pounds with Vinny, no grains, no sugar Vinny. And
Shout out to Vinny Tortorich, the man.
yes, because of Vinny, I went carnivore. And within a month, first of all, the first thing I noticed was the food freedom, being full and the cravings going away and just like the peace. Your brain just gets a break for a second, you know? Your brain gets a break from the wanting to eat all the time. And then the hypoglycemia went away. I started sleeping better. I stopped having the numbness. I stopped reacting every single time I ate. I got some energy back. There's an added layer of my illness where I'm working on chronic inflammatory response syndrome. We ended up having to move as well. It turned out there was some water damage in our home. Um, yeah. So that's how I ended up carnivore.
And did you go pretty strict, like right from the jump? Did you just go, okay, I'm going like this quote unquote line diet?
Mine was no sweeteners, no dairy. Everything else is on the table. It was a big alter switch. I don't know about you. It was a big switch to go, I have to cook with animal fat? Where do you even get that? I mean, honestly, my mind was blown of like, I've never even heard of this. Where do you even get it from? But
I
now
came
it's
from,
easy.
yeah, I came from vegan to keto to carnivore, and that was an easier transition. And I honestly, the reason I only went carnivore is because I was interested, but also is simpler. I was like, I just was so sick of like, how many net carbs can I have? Well, this has
Ah,
fiber in it.
yes.
So if I can have this much fiber, subtract this from this carbs, and I was like, okay, like let's forget this. And I did realize at a point that when I look at the vegetables that I'm eating, they're smothered in butter or smothered in olive oil, or I'm dipping them in a sauce of some sort. So I'm like, I feel like I just want the fat in the whatever else I'm eating, and I'm only having vegetables because I feel guilty about it because I'm
Yes.
supposed to have. I literally would have like a big salad, just because I'm like, well, I just want to make sure I have all my nutrients, and that's how way I
Yes.
thought. We all thought that. That's we all
I
thought
thought I
that.
was filling up too. I thought, well, the bulk of my food should be vegetables because they're lower. I went with calories. They're lower calories. So I'm going to
Yeah.
eat this bulk vegetable. And then, I mean, this is just real wildly inappropriate to talk about, but I would go visit my husband who worked on the road and I would bring like boiled eggs and carrots, celery, and tomatoes. And I would eat that on the way there. And I would get there, and it was just the wildest thing. Every time I would get there, I would have the worst, most horrendous gas, like the warm gas. There was this one time we were in TJ Maxx, and I had to let one go. And this lady walks by, and she looks at my husband, and she goes, "Woo!" or something like that. She totally blamed it on my husband, and it was me.
Should have
Anyway,
told
I
her
couldn't figure out
whoever
why this was
smelt it
happening.
dealt it. You got to throw that the
Yeah.
old middle school back at her.
To this day, he makes fun of me and says, you know, it was so bad. And here we're trying to have a
The,
relationship. It's our time to visit and have a good time. And I'm like, I need to stay in a different room so I can
it
just let this go.
and you're bringing this up, and it is a topic, right? It is a topic, and these are things that people do talk about, even though that's like, oh, look, we're talking about farts up on this podcast. But you start to realize, like, you don't have to, break wind ever,
No more
really, at
fart
ever.
walks.
No more. Yeah, that's such bullshit. I remember seeing that on Instagram. Like, me and my husband go for fart walks or whatever. I'm like, okay, if you're doing that, something's wrong. And I was vegan. My one of my roommates at the time, and just after college, he was vegan, and like that would be like a discussion and be like, dude, fucking house smells, man.
Now I know it's fermented veggies inside of your
Yeah,
body. It's fermentation inside your body. It's
yeah.
completely gone. And I was constipated too. So constipated. And they tell you to eat more veggies. And now I'm like, that's freaking evil that they're saying that. That is evil because it makes it worse.
That's like all the fiber, like fiber one bar, like you get again, I don't really I just listen to my body now. I don't listen to any like nutritionist. But they'll be like, oh yeah, you have to have this much fiber in your diet, da da da. And if it's you are constipated, you got to do this powder, colon cleanse,
Yes, I
like all
was
that.
guzzling that stuff.
Exactly. And it's so crazy that we're pushing this onto people and we don't even understand what it's doing. And the more research that are starting to come out, again, I look at a research and I look at it two ways, like, oh, is this kind of a paid for thing? Is it really like a legit study? And that's why I experiment by myself and then I decide for myself.
Mhm.
But they're starting to realize and find out that fiber is the one of the biggest issues or biggest culprit, and anything that has
It's
to do with the gut.
inflaming.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's inflaming our guts. It makes
and
no sense that we have to eat something we can't even digest.
it's just nuts.
So that's
So
all gone now. Now, and the other thing I thought was, is it the eggs? So I cut the eggs. I still had this issue. I thought it must be stress of traveling. Must be travel stress.
mhm. I
No, it was the
um,
veggies.
yeah, and so you go to carnivore. And my question to you is like, how does your relationship with food? Because people look at the carnivore diet as a very restrictive diet. How do you feel about that?
I have a couple things because I'm really digging deep lately. When you first go carnivore, you get to take a break from managing your relationship with food because you're on a pink cloud for a while. You're like, I'm so full. I've never been so full before. My hunger cues are realigning for the first time in my life, like better than my surgery. It was amazing. I'm just satisfied. Your mood starts getting better. So I've heard some people say that the carnivore pink cloud can be like 6 months long, and some people have said 18 months. But so the carnivore cloud is great for a while. Then you go on vacation or something. You have some event where maybe because I didn't have dairy, I let dairy back in. Next thing you know, I'm not a moderator. And so I'm over consuming dairy. Let's say I added sweetener to my coffee. Next thing you know, I'm drinking 6 cups of coffee. So in the end, after the pink cloud disappears, you do have to face your relationship with food, in my opinion. Unless you are truly such a great abstainer that you are never going to have anything addicting for the rest of your life. So I I'm trying to manage this over the past year. I've played around with different variations of abstaining all the way down to lion, and lion felt amazing. It really did. It felt so good, food freedom wise, body wise, energy wise. It felt so great. But then I discovered short ribs. So next thing you know, I'm eating like $75 worth of short ribs a day. You, I'm just making that up. But in the end, I think you still have to have your why. You still have to recognize unhealthy behavior. Like for me, it's very comforting to eat before bed. It's so comforting for some
Hmm.
reason. So I need to find something else. I don't know what that is exactly quite yet. I mean, sometimes I can fill it with listening to a good podcast, but sometimes the kids are running around screaming. I need to find that thing. Maybe I need to start crocheting. I don't know. I got to find the thing. What do you do? How has your relationship? I know this is my interview, but I want to know if you have any tips.
uh, the tips would be, you have to explore for yourself of what you can and can't let in. And you got to be okay with not looking at the scale. You have to be okay with not tracking for a little bit. Now, tracking is managing, right? If you do have like a goal and you want to stay on track, you want to track your calories, macros, whatever. Because if you do eat intuitively and you are a person that tends to overeat, you're probably going to gain weight. You can't eat as much beef and fat as you want without impunity. It's not like calories don't matter at all because they do. And I felt myself, and I was just talking on a couple podcasts about how carnivore, I love it. It's great, but I've slowly started to gain weight on carnivore. And it's like, wait,
Hmm.
how's that even possible? You can't gain weight. I guess, yes, yes, you can. Yes, you
Yes,
can.
you can.
Yeah. And it's not like I do eat crazy stuff. I don't keep literally anything in the house. There's nothing in my pantries besides like cooking utensils, kitchen stuff, salt. My people make fun of when they come over. They're like, dude, you don't got no snacks up in here? I'm like, no, man. I'll give you a great example too. Yesterday, somebody came over. We did watch movies. I made a charcuterie board. I got super sod. This is real Dago like antipasta style right here. I got supersad, I got prosciutto, pecorino, Parmesan Reggiano, and a provolone. Like so cheese and meat, and I bought some berries, whatever. They brought over um the gummy twin snake things. I don't even know what the hell these things are called. And then like a caramel chocolate thing. And then she got me a because she asked, "Do you want candy?" I'm gonna bring candy for the movie night. I was like, I don't know. No, thank you. Like I'm sweet enough, I don't need candy. But then she bought me Hershey sugar-free um chocolate. And I'm like, oh, thanks, whatever. So I ate some of the cheese. I actually probably had a little more. I allowed myself it though. I allowed myself. I had a little bit more cheese than I should have. I had a little more prosciutto than I should have. I had some berries. And then when I started to feel like I was starting to get kind of full, like I just cut it off there. And she left the Hershey non chocolate, non sugar, whatever it is. And I'm like thinking in the back of my head, if it's no sugar chocolate, it's probably like, and it's from Hershey's, it's probably a bunch of chemicals in there, anyways. As soon as she
Anal
left,
leakage chocolate.
yeah, as soon as she left, I took it and I threw it in the garbage right away. Because I
Hmm.
know if it stays in that cabinet, I'll have one, then I'll have another, and then I'll have another. So not buying the things, like not
Hmm.
buying the things, and this is very hard. And then this is the next piece I'm going to get to of like if you do have a family. For me, it's easy because I just have ribeyes, ground beef, that's it. And I have like heavy cream for a coffee in the morning, nothing else. And if I do buy something, I know that if I do buy fruit, I have to buy the small package. And if I eat it, I eat it. If I can make it last, I make it last. But I'll allow myself that much. Um, and then there's nothing I can do about it because I don't have it in the house.
Yeah.
If it's really important to you, don't have it in the house. So my question to you, to bring it back on you, is, and I always wonder about this. Like, you have kiddos, you have a husband. Uh, I'm all with people that do carnivore or low carb or anything. Like, how do you navigate food with your family?
So that's been at first it was really easy because I was on a mission and I remembered how crappy I felt and I just wanted to feel good. And then when you start healing and you start feeling better, you go, maybe I could have a little bit of zero chocolate. It's zero. It's a keto product, you know? And I had purchased that for my kids for Easter because I figured it was better for them to have that than to have anything from Walmart. And so that's been hard. Is if I had maintained perfect this whole time, I don't think we'd even have a conversation here. I think I'd probably be just like, "Oh, it's all good. Everything's good. It's so easy." Um, but that stuff is around because my kids are more keto. So right now I'm just working on my why, like really, really hard. And so I need to do some more journaling every day of like, and also they say, and this is so true for me, if I stay plugged in, this is part of my problem here. Once I started recording, I stopped listening, you know? And when you
Say that
listen,
again. So once you start recording, so what do you mean by that?
once I started my YouTube channel, once I
Okay.
started recording, I stopped listening. But when you listen, it's considered like one of your engagements. And they say if you engage with like four or five, have you 4 or 5 engagements a day with people who are doing things that that you love to do that help you get to your goals, it helps you stay engaged and helps you stay motivated. And so that was so easy in the beginning. I was listening to constant podcasts constantly. And then I would reach out to people on Instagram and all that, you know? And then once you flip it to the other side and you start sharing, now you're spending so much energy sharing that you do less listening, and I need to do more listening. And I
That's a
think
great
that is
point.
so helpful to me is to do more listening. And
I
and also start reaching out to some people more on Instagram. And I used to go to meetings. I used to go to Dr. Lisa Wiedemann's meetings every week and Kelly Hogan. And I also love Danny Conway. So throughout time, I always have some kind of meeting going on. Right now, I don't really have anything going on. And so it's been a lot more of a struggle. So if I do those things, that helps me stay in the mindset because it is hard. I'm surrounded by people who my family's pretty accepting because they've seen me get better and I've been getting the boys to eat meat. Like my baby, he's a meat baby. His first food was steak. And
said meat
he'll
baby.
like it's snack time. He's like, "Give me a beef stick, mama." It's lunchtime. He says, "Can we stop and get burger patties and bacon?" When it's time to drink something, he asks for my salt water. So he's just awesome. Now the big kids, they had keto. They basically had, you know, paleo, low carb their whole life. So they crave the other stuff still, and we're still working on that. But
Yeah.
sorry if that was a
It's
horrible
no,
answer.
no, no, no,
It's
no.
hard.
Yeah, I don't have any kids, and I'm not that I'm worried, but it's just a worry because, you know, y they go to school. Like I'm a teacher. Like I see the kids in
That's
school and
hard.
how they eat. And my school has a compared to most cafeterias, ours is pretty good, right? But I've been in Chicago public schools where the food is it's terrible. It's literally you're giving
There's
the
no
kids
food.
it's not food. It's make believe like here like oh you wish it was pizza. Like the cheese is like plastic. It just looks so gross and it's terrible. But when they go with their friends or they go and there's these social gatherings and my school does it too. They give kids candy for
Mm-hmm.
like in Jolly Ranchers and all this stuff for doing a good job. I'm like, we are looking at this very backwards. And again, I don't have skin in the game because I don't have a kid. But at the same time, I want to have a kid. And if I'm in these, you know, struggles of, well, why does this kid and they get to eat this and they get to have that and we can't have that? And it's just like something you got to navigate and it's going to be hard. And it's really against the grain because what we give our kids as the norm is terrible. It's so bad for them. I don't know.
You're
Oh,
reminding me, I need to come up with substitutes because my one son, I don't know if it's a, you know, the thing in the arm injury, but is, he has significant behavioral issues and he can't have it. If he has the sugar, the chemicals, the colors, when I pick him up, I can't manage him. He screams and kicks and throws and you cannot manage him. He's driving the teachers nuts too. So he can't have that. So I really need to come up with some substitutes that are packaged that can stay there for those days. But I can tell you this. First of all, you need to find yourself a meaty wife, and then it won't be an issue. I have a
What do you
friend
say when you
who,
say meaty wife? I don't think the listeners are hearing the exact same thing you're saying.
well, a girl with a little, body, that's good too. But we want someone healthy and
Yes.
really loves to eat meat like you. And then you guys can raise your kids on meat too, because I have a friend who only gave her kids whole foods. She did homeschool, so that's an added piece. But I'm friends with those kids today. They're like 20 and 22. My husband tries to sabotage them and take them out for like French fries and noodles. They've tried it a few times, and do you know what happened? Because you know what, everybody assumes that they're going to go, "Oh my gosh, this is so great," and they just gorge themselves. No, they felt like crud, and they did not want to eat it because it made them, they got to actually feel what it feels like to eat that crud. They were not addicted, and they did not want more, and they did not eat a ton of it. So I think if we could somehow raise our kids to mostly eat whole foods, that it's going to make a difference.
Yeah,
It's not going to cause disorder.
single ingredient foods, making those substitutes, whatever it may be. Mark Sesson, I never, do you know what mascarpone cheese is by chance? It's very like thick and
Very
creates
mozzarella-like?
it's like it's like Italian cream cheese, mascarpone
Okay.
cheese. You can find it anywhere, wherever. It's like a filler. And Mark Session did this. And then when I would have a sweet tooth, he says mascarpone, a scoop of mascarpone cheese, like a little honey and a couple berries. And he's like, if you really want something,
Ooh.
it's got a bunch of fat in it. You get the little bit of the sugar from the berries, and it's pretty rich too because it's got so much fat in there that you feel satiated. And that's one little substitute. I've made it for people like that come and I barbecue and I grill and I'll make that as like a little side dessert. It's nothing big. It's just like a scoop and like some berries and a little honey. And they're like, what is this? And I'm like, it's mascarpone cheese. And it's like, they're like, this is the best thing I've ever had. This is so good. But it's one of those little substitutes that I do. If I have people that want a dessert, I'll make that. And it's really easy and it's not gonna make you feel like crap.
Yeah, the crazy part is if you show up at a party with bacon, with deviled eggs, with meat skewers, can you imagine if you showed up with steak skewers? Everyone would eat your food before the crackers and the chips and the junk. Your food would be cherished and eaten first. I mean, people crave it, they just don't realize it.
Yeah. We talk about like you were talking about the would you call it the pink phase, pink
The
cloud? Is
pink
that
cloud.
so like Jess Randell was on the podcast and she talks about she called it carnivore bliss and that when you
Mm-hmm.
actually get a lot of the food out of like all the basic like processed, highly palatable, just junky food that we eat on the day to day, you get rid
Mm-hmm.
of that and you have more fat and animal protein, you have this carnivore bliss and you don't know how good you could have felt because you never felt that good before. It's a real thing. And
100%.
I will never go back. Do I allow myself indulgences? Yes, I will once in a while have an ice cream. You're right. But it's not in the house. Like I'll be out with friends. I say, you know what? I'm going to have that. So am I strict? Yes. Not to the point where I'm never ever going to have an indulgence because then it's like, I still want to live life. I'm going to go to Japan pretty soon. I'm going to have some like really cool things in Japan. Like I'm not going to be like,
Awesome.
I'm only having steak and nothing else. Like, no, I'm on vacation. I'm going to do those things. But when you do have like something that's not very good for you and you've done carnivore for a long time, like you were saying, like those kids, if they when they eat the noodles or the French fries or whatever, you feel like crap. You don't want to eat like
Mm-hmm.
that anymore. I know it happens
No.
to me all the time. If I have something I'm not really should be eating, I just my anxiety goes up. I feel like crap.
Yes.
I don't even really want to work out the next day. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have to like force myself to get to the gym and do things. It's almost like you're hungover,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So that's how I feel about it.
I was fortunate enough. These are the only two cruises I've ever been on, but I went on two, one in January and one in March. The only ones I've ever been on. Just saying, I'm not like, it was awesome. January, I go and I decide I'm going to have some of the sugar-free desserts, I decide. And I wasn't even thinking like, hey, this is probably the same garbage you would buy in a grocery store, which isn't low sugar at all when you look at the glycemic index of the products they put in it. And I felt like a garbage can. I was sick the entire time. So in the March cruise, I decided I don't want to feel like crap the whole time, which is exactly why I'm glad that I don't drink anymore because I would feel like crap the whole cruise. And so the second one, I stuck to my meat and I walked every day and I felt amazing and I came back. I had a great trip. I came back. I hadn't gained any weight. It was good. So I learned my lesson. You just don't want to feel like crud anymore.
And it's the yeah, you like you said, you learn your lesson. It's just your body's telling you like, I don't like this at all. This is not good. What's a typical day, like a day of meals for you, like with your workouts? Like push through a regular day. What would you eat and like what would your activity look like?
So this is a little bit nuts because I'm taking a protocol for the mold illness. So I take my medicine in the morning, my thyroid medicine, and I can't eat with it. So I will take that. Then when we get up and everything, we will go for a walk or a weightlifting session. I can't seem to get both in. And that's okay. I think
That's
that's okay.
okay.
So in the summer, it's a lot of walking. In the winter, it's a lot of weightlifting. And then when we get back, that's when I'll eat my first meal, and it will be around 11 noon, and it could be sardine salad. I'm a big sardine person because they make me feel amazing. Like whatever's in them make me feel amazing. So I'll make like it's chosen mayo, mustard, and sardines. Or I'll have burger patties, or I'll have leftover picanha. I'm a big picanha girl. I could eat picanha for every meal. That's mostly what I've been eating, but I do sometimes I'll have New Yorks. So then it'll go a couple hours and I'll have another combination of one of those things, and then we'll have dinner. And then I'm struggling to not snack before bed. So what would a snack before bed be? It would be a carnivore bar. I
Carnivore
love them.
bar.
They're so good. It's something about it. It's almost like a treat. It like melts in your mouth like a candy bar, but it's fats and stuff. So that's mostly my day I'm a lot of beef. I do sometimes have eggs, but they slow me down. And I've tried all the different variations. I'm very sensitive to them. I don't know if it's my autoimmune or what. If I go out to eat, I will get burger patties. That is my favorite thing to get. I will get a steak from time to time, but I never like the steak. It's never as good as at home. I don't know about you.
The same thing. Same thing. I mean, you're going to buy a steak at a steakhouse. And again, there are your fancy steakhouses, whatever, but if you're just trying to get a regular steak, Joe Schmo restaurant, you're gonna pay double, triple what you pay to get it your own. And I'm like, it's like typically
And it's
overcooked.
never as
It's
good.
and then I say like just put salt on it, and you can tell they put like I like kicked pepper a long time ago, and
Me too.
it's a big difference. Like I used to salt and pepper everything. And not that I have huge like reactions to it, but my taste buds have changed a lot. But I asked for just salt. I'll put like pepper and whatever else seasonings on. I'm like, "Ah, okay." And I'm like, I just don't like the taste. And I'm like, I got Costco steaks at home that I can grill up. Like the
Mm-hmm.
best, like over restaurant quality. But you can never go wrong with like a good just burger patty. The only problem is like they charge you the yin yang for it. But if you need to make a decision and you're out with people, it's just burger patty. And sometimes I feel bad about it, but I don't even tell them no bun because it's just like a big ordeal. I'm just like, yeah, I'll do a double with cheese, bacon on it, whatever, and then it'll come. I'll just take the bun. I'll put it off to the side because I always ask for no bun, and it's like an ordeal. I don't know if you ever heard in that
I purposely
situation.
go to the places where I know I can order a la carte.
Mm,
So those places would be Applebee's. You can get these big, huge burger patties. And I want to say if you get two of them, it's like almost a pound of meat. It's amazing and they're juicy. And I think it's like $12, which is amazing because everybody else is spending 25.99 and their plate is this big and
yeah,
their steak is this big. and they paid $25.99 and I paid $12.99 and I got a pound of meat and it's delicious. I also love Buffalo Wild Wings. Now, not every Buffalo Wild Wings will let you do this, but you can a la carte. I want to say it's like $2.14 a patty or something, and they're smash burgers. So they're
Oh,
nice and delicious. And all they cook with is tallow mostly.
oh,
So,
they do. Interesting.
yeah. And I think, I don't know. I want to say he said, no, where were we that Texas Roadhouse, at least the one by us, they cut their own steaks and they keep their renderings and they cook with it. So you're getting at Texas Roadhouse, you're getting cooked with the fat from their steak. And that's awesome. So I love to support them. And then, of course, there's McDonald's. You can get burger patties there too. So that's where we mostly go. But if we're going to go to a place where they're going to charge me for multiple meals so that I can get just the two burger patties, I'm never coming back.
Yeah, it's 35, $40 for two burger. I'm like,
Yes.
this is crazy. Uh, but yeah, it's a part of the lifestyle of being carnivore and or low carb or what have you.
Yeah.
Love it.
Now,
So
I love how you put parameters around your fruit. You said, I'm going to have fruit, but I'm only going to buy the small container. I've seen, I'm not doing cream right now at all, but if I were, my friend Karen Miles told me, portion it in these little cups. I got them at TJ Maxx and they're glass, and I froze 2 tablespoons at a time. So you only pull one out, and you thought the night before. I mean, you can't even instantly do it, or you'll probably ruin the heavy cream like if you were to try to put it in the microwave. So you got to put, it's a
mm,
whole planning thing, and you only have that little portion. So I love the idea of you can control your dairy by saying, I'm only going to have cheese on my burgers when I go out to eat. I'm not going to buy a block of cheese for home. So those are a couple things too.
no, these are all great tips. You're like, again, I don't even, that's exactly, if I make burgers at home, I don't put cheese on it. The only time is when I go outside.
Hmm.
I've said this on different podcasts. I'm like, I've heard this. I don't know if it's true. I should do more research, but there's apparently like a genetic trait that certain people can just consume like cheese and dairy with in the receptors don't react to as if you've had enough. You can just continuously eat and eat and eat dairy, whatever that genetic thing. Yeah, I got it too.
Yeah.
What's so what's on the horizon right now? I know that you have the YouTube channel. You're interviewing a bunch of awesome guests. It's awesome. It's great. And then what else do you have coming up? Anything fun or what you're looking forward to?
Um, Really, my intent with the YouTube channel is hope that some people locally will see it. I know a lot of friends and family who are ill and they keep doing the medical system. It's not helping them. And they're just feeling worse and worse and worse. I'm just hoping like maybe they'll see. Maybe someone locally will see. I mean, if someone sees it around the world, that'd be great too. But there's so many people around me that you can't force it down their throat. They don't want to hear it until they want to hear it. So that's my hope there. And then my next thing is I just love meetups. And so my goal is to just go to lots of meetups and hang out with people. Like it's euphoric to be to be around other meat eaters. We all have like this positive energy, this good energy, and we're all living in a different paradigm, I think. We left the plant paradigm. And so it's just a joy to be around. And so I don't really know other than that. I think my husband has this machine called a plasma cutter, a CNC plasma cover table, where he can etch out things. And so I think we're going to start like a carnivore sign business or something. That'd be
Carnivore
fun.
like cutting boards.
Oh, I wish we could do cutting. We could do cutting boards too. We should.
There you go.
Yeah. It can cut wood or metal. And I'm thinking like you need a sign on your counter that says bacon solves everything.
Bacon
It's like a
cells.
t-shirt business for signs. I don't know. Who knows?
Eat
But mostly my
steaks, lift
intent
weights.
is
Yeah.
please, people, if you know anybody who's 330 pounds in a bad marriage, broke as hell, and just thinks this is it, you can change. It can change. Life can be better. We can heal things that we are being told we cannot heal unless there's a pill for it. We can heal. We can lose weight as we heal. We can be in healthy relationships and we can be happy.
And you're living proof of it. And the what you said about your inner circle, right? The circle of people around you. The one thing that I heard, and I always use this now, is you want to be a lighthouse and not a foghorn, right? Like you don't want to just like
Yes.
here's do this, you have to do this, you have to do that, but
Do it my way.
do it my way. This is the only way. No, like if you are a lighthouse instead of a foghorn, like people that are looking for hope and looking for the right direction, they'll find you, and you're there to point them in the right way. So, and I think that's exactly what you're doing, which is fantastic.
You too. And I'm so grateful. We just ran into each other at Dr. Lisa's meetup, and it was such a great time getting to sit with a bunch of podcasters. And
Yeah. We were like, we had like a good crew at the table. We had Life Like Jake, Casey Ruff, James Lehman, the carnivorist, just everybody was
Jake's
there.
mom,
Jake's mom was there.
my friend Cheryl.
You've met two lovely ladies in this world. You've met Jake's mom and you've met my mom.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. You know a good man when he respects his mother.
I'm like, Ma, you want to go hike and eat some meat? She's like, all right, I'll go.
That's awesome she would do that.
Yeah, she's crushing it right now. We just had Christmas in July at her house for the kids, and I was the grill master. And literally, we had ribeye steaks, some burgers. She made ribs in the oven, and I seared them on the grill. It was fantastic. So she's all about the meats now.
Good. And she's feeling awesome.
Yeah, she's feeling good. Well, Adrian, it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to talk to you again and talk some more shop and maybe meet you at one of the meetups. Where can people find you and connect with you?
I'm mostly on Instagram and YouTube. It's Adrian K. Gledhill, which is like Sled Hill, except Gledhill.
Gledhill. Awesome. Well, I'll be following your page and just, watching your journey and just cheering you on, and thanks for everybody listening to the Primal Foundations podcast.